It's Thursday night, which you know it means it is time for the MMA DFS strategy show right here on Awesemo.com, sponsored by SuperDraft. That is the fighter Pete Rogers Jr. Of course, I am Jason Floyd. Pete, how you doing, brother?
What is going on, man? Currently have a headache trying to break down this fight card. Let me tell you, it's not one of my favorites.
You kind of said that last week to me as well.
Yeah. I think this one might take the cake. I don't know, man. This one's a little tough. If you look at the spreadsheet, there is a ton of red. So, hopefully you can help me out on this.
Well, we're going to try to help everybody out here to make a little money here on Saturday nights, whether it's on SuperDraft or any other DFS platform. Of course, if this is your first time watching or listening to the strategy show, what we do is we break down all the fights, start with the main event, work all our way down the fights. Of course, we'll answer your questions as you go on. Start lining up those questions right now in the YouTube chat. But, Pete, before we get into these fights, got to give a little brief breakdown of what happened last week. UFC Vegas number 5. We're on the air on Saturday as we're learning Joe Merchart's out. And then as the main card starts, we learn that Trevin Giles is now out of the fight card. So I know some people had shared some screenshots with me after the fact where they had fighters all right at 100 or near 100. And then you see that big fat Kevin Holland 0. And yep, I had Kevin Holland an MVP spot on FanDuel, one of my lineups.
Yeah, I had quite a bit of Kevin Holland, and that definitely hurt. You can't see these things coming, and unfortunately, there was nothing DraftKings could do for us other than provide some promotional contests and everything. But if you avoided that fight, I said I was slightly underweight, but of course I had plenty. You ended up having a nice lineup, and the screenshots were great, but it was definitely the craziest week in history for me as far as DFS.
Yeah, man, it was. DraftKings is doing a free roll for everyone who was involved in the MMA contest last week. So they emailed out a link. So the contest is live because I reserved my spot in it. They're giving away some entries into the Millionaire contest next week for UFC 252. So once again, another big fight card coming up. But of course, here to break all this one down, of course, main event, Derek Lewis versus Alexi Oleinik. First off, let me get your thoughts on this. I don't think you have to roster this fight.
Oof, man, I don't know. I feel like you might have to because they're both, decently priced. Derek Lewis does have a ton of finishes, comes in with an 83% finish rate. Alexi Oleinik, 92%. But if there was ever a pace rate that we could go by, I definitely could see it backing up with what you're saying of potentially avoiding this because Derek Lewis sometimes doesn't throw the most and is a little tentative and careful and ends up not having the best DFS scores, whereas Alexi Oleinik goes for broke kind of off the whistle and throws heavy looping shots. You saw it against Fabricio Verdum, and then tries to resort to his ground credentials to get the wins. And he has more chokes than anybody. And I think that there's an argument to say if, who's the best submission threat in the heavyweight division, Alexi Oleinik, Fabricio Verdum. It's very, very close. And, at 7,500, if he goes and is able to take Derek Lewis down, you're talking about crazy value. I'll have my shares of Alexi Oleinik, but I'm not feeling comfortable about it. I think that Derek Lewis can hurt him. And we've seen Alexi Oleinik get hurt very easily against Walt Harris and dropped and finished by numerous people. So as long as Derek Lewis can get back to his feet, I think that he has some value at 8,700, even though you probably won't be as heavily on him as I will.
Look, I think the value is on Alexi Oleinik. I mean, I think you can't feel comfortable on either side of this fight. Obviously, we've seen Derek Lewis get taken down in fights. Now, he's been able to power his way back up, once he has been taken down, and he is walking around lighter than he has been over the past couple of years. But so looking on the DraftKings app, pull up Derek Lewis. We've got 10 fights listed for Derek Lewis. What do you think is the most significant strikes he's landed in the last 10 fights?
Probably 45, 50.
51.
Yeah.
And that was in a loss.
Yeah.
That was it against Mark Hunt. I'm just going to give you the scores of his last 5 wins. 40, 53.5, 79.5, 40, and 91.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I just think that Alexi Oleinik, if he gets hit by Derek Lewis, I think he's going to sleep pretty easily. Now, you brought up a good thing about, Alexi Olenek's takedown ability and if Derek Lewis can get back to his feet. Alir Latifi took Lewis down 3 times. Blagoy Ivanov took him down 3 times. DC took him down 4 times. So think of that what you will. I mean, it is DC, but there's definitely some, takedown deficiencies in Derek Lewis's game, but he tends to get back to his feet. The problem is, if I'm looking at all of these guys that he's fought recently, I don't remember him facing anybody that has such a submission threat that, literally will give up any position just to get him on the mat. And you're talking about Ezekiel chokes from all sorts of positions, pulling guard to basically wrap in Ezekiel chokes and some unorthodox techniques. So as a guy that somewhat tends to struggle with his gas, you would wonder, how will he handle if Alexi Oleinik is cranking on that neck of his? Will he give up easily, or will he be able to power out of it? I'm not too sure, Jason. I feel like if Alexi gets his hands on Derek Lewis, I think he's going to attack pretty quick. I really do.
When you think of Derek Lewis, you think of this power, but the fact is we don't see him get that finish in the first round. I think if there's a finish in the first round, you probably like Alexi Oleinik in that spot, just because when Alexi does submit guys, more times than not in the first round. I mean, look, you called the upset against Verdum, when Oleinik had that fight, but the one thing about that fight was in the third round, that gas tank was just gone. And, and we have seen Derek Lewis, while it will look like his gas tank is gone, all of a sudden he just lands a right hand, a la the Alexander Volkov fight. I think the fight that he probably became the most popular when he said his balls were hot.
That's my boy. I love Derek Lewis, man.
But I'm telling you right now, the best, if you want to follow one fighter on Instagram and you can only follow one, it's got to be Derek Lewis.
100%. It's like following, a world star, basically. He gets the videos before they do. For me, as speaking about all of Alexi Oleinik's possibilities and strengths, I still have to side with Derek Lewis. And I think that he touches Alexi and finishes him. I just think that this is the battle of bad gas tanks and who will prevail. I'm not too sure. Will he have the best score? Probably not. I would say the safest bet on the card is that this fight does not go the distance. So you could definitely – I wonder what that line's at, but I would definitely play something on that because fight doesn't go the distance for a 5-round bout for guys that struggle with gas tank issues. I think that's pretty safe.
Wait, I'll pull up the old prop bets here. So let's see here. Fight goes to decision is plus 450.
Yeah, as it should be.
Minus 675. It doesn't. Now look, looking at the 3 platforms.
Mm-hmm.
The platform I would say I would like Derek Lewis on is DraftKings at 8,700. FanDuel at $21. SuperDraft at 1.1 times. Not exactly in love with that. Do not like him on SuperDraft.
See, I'm actually opposite than you. Think about FanDuel scoring, right? Alexi's going to try to take him down a ton of times. So if Lewis is able to defend takedowns, you're talking about a boosted score over on FanDuel for Derek Lewis. Whereas Alexi Oleinik, DraftKings tends to favor grapplers. So potentially Olynyk's style fits the mold for DraftKings punt plays at 7,500. I'll have my shares and I'll definitely spread out my exposure. But this is a fight I will be targeting probably a little bit more than you.
Okay, so we don't have a Kevin Holland line on FanDuel yet. We know he's the most expensive guy on DraftKings.
Yeah.
So Derek Lewis is the most expensive guy on FanDuel at $21. I would much rather go $2 less and get Hapras.
I would say no still. And you know why? Because Lewis has the potential to get a KO victory. And strikers are favored over on FanDuel and grapplers are favored on DraftKings. And I don't care what he scored and what you said. It literally one round. If Lewis is going to be tentative, right? Olynyk's not going to be tentative. Olynyk's going to go in there and get in and get out. So what that's going to do is going to force Derek Lewis's hands to engage and fight probably at a higher pace than he's used to. But that could lead to finding the chin of Oleinik. So I like Lewis. I know 21, it's not the safest thing and not the best feeling to roster him at the highest salary on FanDuel at the moment. I would expect Holland to be higher than that. But I don't see a problem with it, Jason.
Look, I think that my concern with Derek Lewis is history.
Yeah.
And you look at the fact that he has not been the greatest DFS player. So at 8,700 on DraftKings, look, I'm not saying he can't win the fight. I think there's a reason he's a favorite. There's a reason he's a favorite that he is. I see concerns, but also I go, okay, is Derek Lewis in the optimal lineup if he wins? And vice versa, is Alexi Olynyk in the optimal lineup if he wins?
Oh, of course, Olynyk's going to be in the optimal if he wins. He's 7,500, and he's a grappler. And even if he doesn't grapple as much as we're thinking, he goes out there like he did against Fabricio Verdum and just threw bombs and somehow outpaces Derek Lewis. He's going to outperform his salary at 7,500. So I'll have shares of Alexi Olynyk, but I think this card, I think it screams spread your exposure and not, there's not too many locks on this card.
All right, the number's 85. You going over under Derek Lewis 85 points?
I'm saying over.
So you're thinking first round win?
I think so. I think it happens. I mean, the guy historically has had issues with his health. I don't know if they're excuses, but sometimes he complains about his back. He has a hurt rib or whatever. Like, it always seems like it's something. So he's hard to trust. I get it. But I think Derek Lewis is a bad matchup for Alexi Olynyk. He's going to crack Olynyk and knock him out. That's my opinion on the fight. But, anything can happen, Jason.
You got to go back to April of 2016, the last time Derek Lewis won a fight in the first round.
You are hating on Derek Lewis.
Whoa. Is it hating or speaking facts?
But the disrespect, but matchups. Okay, let's take a look at this. Alexi Olynyk, so he's fought Mark Hunt. Okay, I think Derek Lewis has a better takedown. I think he's more athletic than Mark Hunt. I think that Derek Lewis gets it done here.
Look, I'm speaking facts over here. Just because it doesn't go along with your narrative, don't get all pissed off at me.
So who is your pick?
Derek Lewis.
Oh my God, this guy.
But look, I think from a DFS perspective,
yeah,
it's a history.
Yeah, I get you. I got it. So you're going to be underweight on the 8,700 Derek Lewis.
Exactly. What do you say every week on the show when we talk about 5-round fight? The last thing you want is it to be a 3rd-round stoppage or a 4th-round stoppage.
Yeah, I could see that happening too.
If Derek Lewis wins in the 3rd or 4th round, I don't think he pays off the price.
I just don't see how it lasts that long. Somebody's going to win within the first 2.
Yeah. Go over to the chat here because I love the chat.
Yeah.
Chris saying still thinks it comes under 85 points, 3rd-round TKO. Says small cage, I think helps both guys. Early Olynyk going to get on takedowns easy, but if Lewis can stay upright, there's nowhere to run when Lewis starts to turn up.
Exactly. It's an interesting fight, and we'll see. We will see. I think maybe Derek Lewis comes in at the best shape of his life. Seems like he's lost some weight, starting to take fighting seriously. Remember the guy used to talk about how he only trained like an hour a day or something crazy like that. That's absurd for a high-level mixed martial artist. I also don't know what to believe when he says things either. So there's that.
Yeah. Did you see that apparently Alexi's food got delivered to his room by mistake?
To Lewis's?
Yeah.
No.
He decided that he was going to put a little extra flavor on it.
Oh, boy.
He spit on it. Come on, don't get.
No way.
Yeah, it was on his Instagram.
I did not see that. That is so disrespectful. Wow.
I'm guessing that food did not go to Alexi, but yeah, that happened there. But yeah. Of course, we are sponsored by SuperDraft. This is a UFC Vegas Summer 6 strategy show right here on Awesemo.com. And, of course, the future of daily fantasy sports has arrived. Experience SuperDraft's exclusive game mode multiplier. Say goodbye to salary restrictions, hello to lineup freedom. Use your fantasy sports knowledge. Draft any player you want and build your very own dream team. Countless lineup possibilities let you experience daily fantasy sports the way you want. SuperDraft offers contests for NBA, MLB, PJ, NASCAR, and MMA, so you can enjoy the best of DFS all year round. Sign up for SuperDraft today using the promo code Awesemo10, and it's $10 free on your first deposit of $10 or more, and $20 total free on your first deposit of $100 or more. Download the App Store or play at superdraft.io. SuperDraft, no limits, more winning. Of course, you always talk about me and Pete always talk about the great tools we have over at Awesemo.com that Alex puts together, and these are tools that he uses to be the #1 DFS player in the world and get access to all those great Awesemo Plus tools and content for the upcoming UFC fight card with the Awesemo Plus MMA Weekly Pass for $8.95. This includes full access to Awesemo's leading fighter projections, ownership projections, and the top fighters tool. There's never been a better time for MMA DFS, so step into the octagon today. Joe, appreciate the tip there and donation. Have you seen what his question was?
Yes.
Who are your guys' lock of the fight card? I always have to ask this during the shows. Joe, appreciate the donation there. We all know how much Pete loves that L word.
You guys like
okay. All right. If we're talking just fight related.
Yeah, not DFS. I can give you people I feel comfortable in.
Nazareth Haparas will be my lock.
Ooh, that's crazy. Now it makes sense because he was so highly touted and he's so skilled. But I think as far as lock to get a W, I don't know about DFS. I would say Yusuf Zalal. I like him here. I like the matchup for him. I think he's a little too elusive for Peter Barrett. We know a little bit about Peter Barrett, and I'll be rooting for him. But I think this is a tough matchup for him.
Yeah, I think obviously everyone's going to look at Kevin Holland. Probably going to be very chalky as we do this show. No FanDuel pricing yet on him. And when I was putting together my sheet earlier this afternoon, SuperDraft had not had the multipliers on him or Joaquin Buckley. Buckley's a guy I'm familiar with, but we'll get into that as we go on throughout the show. Co-main event, I feel like is, it's Pete's favorite fight of the night. It's that 8,200, 8,000 matchup, Chris Weidman, Omari Akhmedov. And Chris Weidman obviously is the name in this matchup, but the fact is he's 1-5 in his last 6, back at 185 pounds. We've seen those for the most part. 85ers go 205, not a ton of success. Of course, we've seen success from Thiago Santos and Anthony Smith here. I don't know. I don't know how you have confidence in Chris Weidman at this point.
Yeah, I don't know either. He's 1-5 in his last 6, and the 5 losses are, KO or TKO losses. So the guy has taken so much damage, and we were talking about it before the show. Since the Luke Rockhold fight, I really don't think that he's been the same fighter. How many shots have really affected and derailed his career? It's just I can't see so much success in the 185-pound division for him because it's just like murderer's row. And he has fought murderer's row. There's tons of talented guys that he's fought and tough competition from Yoel Romero to Luke Rockhold to Anderson Silva. He's fought the who's who in that division. But how much does he have left in the tank? He's been hurt so much that this should be a winnable fight for him against Akhmedov, in my opinion. I think that he should have the grappling advantage. He should be able to take him down, start to get back to his roots of why he got into the UFC, of strong grappling, great BJJ, okay hands to set everything up, but stop thinking you're a striker. Just because you stood with Anderson Silva, let's really get back to the wrestling roots. And against Akhmedov, it's not going to come easy, but I think that's the route to victory because Akhmedov is good at winning fights. He really is. Only has a 60% finish rate, but he's tough. And in that 185-pound weight class, he's kind of the low end of the ranked guys. Mm-hmm. So Chris Weidman, how the mighty have fallen to now we're talking about a coin flip fight against a lower ranked 185er. I think Weidman gets back to his old ways in grappling. If he doesn't, he'll probably get knocked out again. That's just the truth. But I'm hoping Sarah Longo, those guys are talking to him and saying, look, we got to be safe. Let's take the safe approach, maybe the patient approach too. Maybe it's not the most DFS friendly, but the takedown upside for Chris Weidman and his, ability to finish fights, 71% clip. So I like Weidman here at 8,000, and I know that 8,200, 8,000 is usually a nightmare for me, but I feel decently confident in Weidman despite – I don't know if confidence is the word, Jason. I don't know what word to describe the feeling I have for Weidman. Maybe it's the name value that I'm holding to, so much to a high standard.
Yeah, I'm not. I feel like you probably have to roster this fight, and Chris in the chat was asked that question where he said, "Is this fight almost a must roster fight if you believe the narratives people are laying out? Weidman outpaces, out wrestles to a decision, or Ahmadi KOs him." I feel like you're good. This is a fight you got to look at.
Yeah.
I think the only question is if you're on the Weidman side of this fight,
Yeah.
is your thought? Are you okay with if he gets a 15-minute decision, and are you going to be comfortable with that score?
Yeah. So okay. So like for me, this isn't one of my favorite fights to target. I find like there's plenty of other spots that I can take advantage of. But if I have to pick somebody to win the fight, I think Weidman can do enough to get it done on the scorecards. Just how does he score? Even at 8,000, accomplished grappler. I just don't know if he scores more than 80, 85. So I'll roster him in a few just because of the potential, but there are plenty of other fights that I'll look at.
So I think here's some very telling on the prop bet lines.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Weidman to win by TKO KO plus 524.
Wow.
Weidman to win by submission plus 480. Weidman by decision plus 190.
Yeah.
Akhmedov by TKO KO plus 220. Akhmedov by submission plus 2,400. And Akhmedov by decision plus 505.
Akhmedov is not submitting Weidman. That's not happening. I could see him TKOing him for sure. But I think Weidman decision is not a bad bet.
I guess I'm going to have to clip that part of you saying Akhmedov can't win by submission.
Yeah, watch it happen. Plus 24.
Watch it happen. I'm like, hey, Pete, you remember when you said this on Thursday?
It's not going to happen. I don't think that.
No. I'm with you there. It'd be interesting just kind of looking at our ownership projections as we currently stand here on Thursday night. We got Chris Weidman at 31% and Akhmedov at 17%.
Yeah, so you could actually pivot from this fight, whereas a lot of people will use this as their mid-range / low-range value. The ownership's going to be there. You don't have a lot of faith in Weidman's recent, track history of 1-5 being KO'd 5 times. So how does that affect him mentally? And even in that Kelvin Gastelum fight you mentioned, he was taking some shots before he ended up getting the victory. So maybe pivot away from the ownership here, guys.
Well, it's one of the comments in the section was from Chris talking about maybe this is going to be Chris going back to his wrestling roots. He's got to get the W because I said on my podcast yesterday, if Chris Weidman doesn't win, where does he go from here?
I think he retires. Honestly, I really do, because he's already tried the 205. That failed. 185. If he loses to the lower ranked / almost unranked fighter, I think you'll see him start to really work on maybe becoming a coach or something. But I think there's plenty of miles left. I just don't know about his chin. Like the talent is there. It's just his chin. Will it hold up or not? I mean, Akhmedov was taken down 3 times against Ian Heinisch. And then outside of that, 5 by Mats Nilsson back in 2015. So this guy has been able to avoid getting taken down by a lot of fighters, but I think that Weidman can do it.
And we're on FanDuel. Akhmedov $17, 16 for Weidman, and they're both 1.3 times on SuperDraft. So that is something to pay attention to there. Of course, this is the UFC Vegas number 6 DFS strategy show. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button here on YouTube. That does help us out tremendously. Then we got Maki Patello versus Darren Stewart. Here's the question.
Yep.
Will Darren Stewart wrestle?
I mean, I don't know. And Darren Stewart has been able to take down plenty of people. He took down Deron Wynn one time, Edmund Shabazian once. Julian Marquez actually 4 times, but he doesn't have the best takedown defense. Taken down 6 times by Deron Wynn, 8 times by Shabazian. But
Maki Patello is not trying to take him down.
He 100% could if he gets clipped. 100% could. He had 3 takedowns against Charles Byrd.
There's a reason Charles Byrd started wearing down gas tank wise to that. But look, Maki Patello, there's a reason his nickname is Coconut Bombs.
Yeah, of course. He likes to throw the hands, and that's the truth. But if a round is close, Jason, just because you're a striker doesn't mean you can't resort to takedowns to put a stamp on a round.
Look, I think on all 3 platforms, Maki Patello is a very solid DFS play.
It's tough. It is tough. Maki Patello is durable, but the one performance that sticks out to me is that Callan Potter. Like, bro, Callan Potter with the striking from a guy out of the crowd, throwing like haymakers from left, like wide shots. And I'm sitting there and I had Patello everywhere, and I'm like, what is happening right now? Darren Stewart's very crisp on the feet and has some good potential. So maybe this is a nice spot where Darren Stewart can actually show his potential.
Look, the Potter loss is an awful loss. Now he's at 80. Now he's at 85. He is definitely a smaller 85er. To me, like, if I am in the Darren Stewart camp, I gotta think the thought process is, look, this guy wants to stand trade with you. Let's not get into a brawl. Let's try to engage, get this, use your strikes to work the takedown, get the fight to the ground, use your strength to wear down on Maki Patello. But I think in terms of if you're looking for an under 8,000 play on DK, Maki Patello, I think, is a guy you have to look at just because this guy is looking to throw them bungalows.
Yeah, Maki Patello is a great 7K option because it he has so much potential, and he throws 5 strikes per minute, and he looks to go out there and put people away, has a 77% finish rate. So he's the type of guy you want in that 7K range where he's going to hunt for a finish. I just think Darren Stewart's really talented, and Darren Stewart's actually coming off of a loss outside the UFC. And in the UFC, I don't know, he was okay, but at a time you would think that he was going to get cut. I think he had like 3 or 4 losses in a row. And he had 3 losses in a row. Against Francimar Barrosa, Carl Robeson, Julian Marquez. So why is the UFC giving him so many shots? Clearly they see something. He has a victory over Bavon Lewis and a split decision over Deron Wynn. So the guy can win good fights. I mean, Maki Patello, the Charles Byrd fight, like that was tough to call as well, because Charles Byrd could have easily exposed Maki Patello by taking him down. So if Darren Stewart goes to grappling, I shouldn't say his roots because it's not, but if he goes to grappling, I think things could get interesting here. But I'll sprinkle Patello in at 7,600.
Then we got a female matchup, Kunitskaya versus Oleinik.
Yep.
8,800, 7,400 on DraftKings. You got to pay off for Kunitskaya. And I think the question is, if you want to pay up, you could have some really good ownership. Yep. As we sit here on Thursday night, we have her at 30%, but that could be lower by the time fight day gets here. You're paying up. The question is can she pay off that price, or is this a potential for a dog?
Yeah, it could be, and I think Stoliarenko is somebody you can look to because we talk about Calderwood going in there against Jennifer Maia. She should have been the A side of the fight standing up, but I was worried about her engaging in grappling and basically introducing the submissions for Maia, and that's what happened. Now, the same thing could happen here against Stoliarenko and Kunitskaya. Kunitskaya is going to look to keep it on the feet, but she has tried to take fighters down in the past. Cyborg Santos is one, but that was mainly because who wants to stand with Cyborg? Not many people. Yeah. And, if Kunitskaya does engage in the grappling, Stoliarenko has some of the best arm bars I've seen for the female divisions. And at 7,400, she's a live dog. But Kunitskaya trains with Thiago Santos, which is her husband or boyfriend, or whatever he is, fiance. And looks like she could have been getting better during this off time. So I don't want to put too much or invest too much in the underdog Stoliarenko at 7,400. But Kudaskai at 8,800 could be a fighter that's forgotten for most that could have a high scoring decision.
Now, when we think of fighters who are someone that you got to target them or target their opponent, Beneil Dariush fits right in that class
Yeah.
because either he's going to go out there and get you a really great performance, or his opponent's going to score big time. Now, he's been on a nice little roll here in this 4-fight winning streak where the lowest amount of points he scored was against Thiago Moses, which was 87, against Dober 110, Camacho 109, and Drakkar Close 94, even though that was kind of a little dicey for him there in a moment there with Drakkar Close. Of course, that was after he had a stretch where he went winless in 3 fights, and of course Scott Holtzman, who's one of the lowest owned, or excuse me, lowest salary fighters on DK at 7,100, 14 on FanDuel, 1.4 times on SuperDraft. I think if you're trying to get two of the fighters within 8,700 and above, where does Dariush fit in that equation?
I'm not sure because Holtzman's a very tough opponent, but Beneil Dariush for me is one of my favorite fighters in the 155-pound division. I just like his whole game. I like the camp that he comes from. I love his jiu-jitsu. He has great takedowns as well. I think that he can really start knocking off some of these highly ranked fighters. And I think it starts here with Holtzman. He's kind of been on a roll, but I like Beneil, but I don't know about DFS because Holtzman's very tough, and his average fight time is 14:08. Only has a 50% finish rate. Dariush 8 minutes 49 seconds and only has a 67% finish rate. Now, if Dariush takes anybody's back, he can submit him. That's for certain. But this stylistic matchup of Holtzman trying to keep it on the feet and punish Dariush standing up and not trying to engage in a jiu-jitsu fight, I don't know. I don't know. I think Dariush gets it done, but for DFS, I'll sprinkle in Dariush, and that's about it. I won't go heavy on Dariush though.
Yeah, I mean Holtzman. He's scored well in the fights that he's been able to get finished. I mean, you look at 82 points in his last fight decision. But Beneil Dariush, you just know this is a guy that's going to be going for the stoppage. So, definitely going to be some guy that I'm going to have some shares on. But I think I'm going to have some shares on Holtzman as well. Then go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to add a few things. So with Holtzman, right, he has been taken down by a ton of fighters. Drew Dober took him down 5 times. Josh Emmett took him down 8 times. And actually Nick Lentz took him down 5 times. And that was somewhat recent back in February of last year. So I feel if those guys are taking you down, I really, really, really like Beneil Dariush to get the takedown and, potentially work towards a finish.
One of the fights that I know me and you have talked about a little bit this week, and that's Means against Staropoli. 8,300, 7,900 fight on DraftKings. $17 for Staropoli on FanDuel, 16 for Means. And then over on SuperDraft, both of them got good multipliers here. 1.35 times for Tim Means, and Staropoli at 1.25 times. What's your take on this one, man?
So I love Staropoli's hands. He has some excellent striking. He's pretty wild and aggressive. Tim Means, he's getting up there in age and experience, but his UFC record is 11-9-1. I like watching Tim Means fight. I think he's a very long, tricky striker. Some great Muay Thai. I just wonder if his chin is starting to catch up with him. Of suffering that crazy knockout loss to Nico Price. I didn't see that coming. If Staropoli cracks Means, I really feel like you could see him getting a nice KO win. 8,300. That's a nice spot here. But in saying that, Tim Means is a well-rounded martial artist and can take people down if he needs to win rounds and has a finish rate of 83%. So this is a fight I will be targeting both sides. Like, this is one of my fights that I think you need, and it's going to be optimal. I can see it going either way. I'll have a slight lean to Tim Means based on the value, but I really like this fight.
Yeah, we always talk about that roster construction, be able to put your lineups together. Let me throw this one out for you.
Yeah.
Tim Means, I mean, you can definitely have some question marks on his chin at this point, where the guy's been in some wars. How about Tim Means? Staropoli gets a little wild, takes him down, wins by submission, which, by the way, is plus 725
For Tim Means submission?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because I think that Tim Means can take people down when he's starting to get cracked, and I think he might start resorting to that because he's long and he's tricky and he's actually good defensively for a little bit. But I guess the young guy Staropoli, you have to think that, man, age, you should be siding with age here. He has an average time of 15 minutes in the cage for Staropoli, but I think the experience Means gets it done. So I'm targeting this fight. I need it in my lineups.
Right now we got Tim Means at 20% ownership.
I think that's warranted though, because he's a 7K option that has shown, the ability to succeed. If he goes the grappling route, I think he's going to avoid the big shots of Staropoli and get it done pretty easily.
Kevin Holland, of course, was supposed to fight last week, and we all know what happened there. Now he takes on Joaquin Buckley, former Bellator fighter, coming off a win 2 weeks ago in LFA, a knockout win, avenging a loss that he had in Bellator. Obviously, you got to pay up for Kevin Holland. Buckley comes in. I mean, I look at the situation for Joaquin Buckley. It's kind of like it's a win-win situation for him. Because the guy stepped up on less than a week's notice, 6-7 days notice to take this fight. Like, so he's getting another fight in the UFC, and then it's a tremendous opportunity. You're the huge underdog. No one's expecting you to win outside of your friends, family, and teammates. So I feel like he's in a good position. And for Kevin Holland, I guess he's not the biggest of middleweights. I mean, we've seen him weigh in like 182, 183 pounds. But I do wonder the fact of he had to make weight last week. Now you're doing another weight cut 1 week after. Could it hurt him at all? And that's why you, as a fighter, you can say Jason, no, you're full of it.
Yeah, I don't think so. So I really don't think he cuts too much weight. If he was notorious for cutting a tremendous amount of weight, I would definitely be worried there. But I think this is Kevin Holland all day at 9,400. It's just, does he get the finish? And I think that he can. Buckley has been knocked out, and Kevin Holland likes to push a crazy, crazy pace. Buckley probably will be looking to take it to the mat. That's what I would be suggesting here. And we have seen Kevin Holland get put into some tricky positions. And you think about the Brendan Allen fight. But the guy can scramble like no other. 9,400, it's not a Chimaev type of lock, but he's in a very good spot here at 9,400. I'll have plenty shares.
So you're saying there needs to be a one-way ticket to take down City here?
Well, I think Buckley shouldn't stand up too much. And I think he's going to be at a significant reach disadvantage of 8 inches. So, work your way inside. It's a smaller cage, so grab a hold of Holland and try to take him to the mat. But I think that he's going to be met with some crazy force of Kevin Holland, and 9,400 is not crazy.
I mentioned about someone asked earlier about the lock of a week for each one, and I mentioned Haparas, who, by the way, if you're following Awesemo on Instagram and Facebook, you'll know that he is our featured fighter of the week as part of our Awesemo Plus player projections. Of course, you can check out those projections on the Awesemo Instagram page, which is at Awesemo_com. Also on the Awesemo Facebook page. Those are updated daily, so you definitely got to check out the free projections that we have up for him. Of course, he's a big favorite in this one. I really like him in this spot against Alex Munoz. Munoz, he's got the wrestling base. I think this is one that Haparas may be the fighter I have the most shares in all week.
Oof. See, I'm going to be a little cautious because of Haqparast's takedown defense. And Marcin Held was able to take Haqparast down 3 times, and Marcin Held has some great submission skills. A guy like Munoz here has incredible wrestling and is one of the wrestling coaches over at Team Alpha Male, but more specifically now CSA, working with Gaston Bolanos and all those guys over there. So the guy is super skilled. Now, had a shot in the Contender Series against Nick Newell. Shout out to my buddy Nick Newell. And he actually looked good in the fight and ended up scoring 4 takedowns in the bout. But wasn't able to work for a finish. And his striking seemed okay. Now, when you're rostering Haqparast, you're thinking that he's going to go out there and knock out Munoz, and it very well could happen because I like Haqparast in the fight. I think that his striking's great. I'm a little cautious because of Munoz's takedown ability. Like, he can really mix things up, just, make you think that you're going to start striking with him and start to resort to his takedowns. Haqparast should win this fight, and he was one of the guys that was like highly touted in that division and thought he was going to have a breakthrough performance, and then boom, gets knocked out by Drew Dober in a crazy, crazy fight. So how does he rebound off of that? We shall see. But be cautious here. 7,200 for Munoz. I think he's a live dog based on the takedown route. Be careful.
If Munoz wins, it's by decision.
Yeah, 100%. But it's through tons of grappling and transitions and takedowns. And at 7,200, it'll probably pay off. But my pick still is Haqparast, but I'll sprinkle in some Munoz just in case.
Any predictions or a projection you have of what Munoz by TKO KO prop bet is?
Probably 600.
Too low, bro.
Really?
Plus 1040.
Yeah, so, I mean, that makes sense because Haqparast should be able to go out there and get the finish. And he's the more, seasoned vet as far as UFC experience. But Munoz is fighting a guy who just suffered a very bad knockout. So that's possible via ground and pound.
Munoz by submission, plus 1550.
Yeah, they're not giving him any credit. And I think it's closer than that. I still think Haqparast does it, but I think it's closer than that.
Haqparast by TKO KO plus 155.
Yeah, makes sense.
No, that definitely makes sense. But I mean, look, I think you're spot on. Munoz's going to win. It's via that heavy grappling. Andrew Sanchez against Wellington Thurman. Sanchez to me may end up being the most popular underdog on the slate.
So initially, I like Wellington Thurman a lot because he's aggressive and throws some heavy power, and then actually, gets some good takedowns and starts to look for chokes and everything. Then I was looking more at Andrew Sanchez, and Andrew Sanchez hasn't been taken down in the UFC. He really hasn't, not once. So he's fought Khalil Roundtree, Trevor Smith, Anthony Smith, Ryan James, Marcus Perez, Marc-Andre Barrio, and Marvin Vettori. None of those guys were able to secure a takedown against them. So Wellington Thurman's path to victory is usually via grappling, and that's what Wellington Thurman did to Marcus Perez and looked really, really good doing so. But I just don't know if he can take down Andrew Sanchez. I just don't know if he can do it. Andrew Sanchez also, he won the Ultimate Fighter. He's very talented. Like, he's good and has good hands and, good defensive wrestling, actually good offensive wrestling as well. So maybe it's just a little bit too much too soon for Thurman, but I think Sanchez at 7,700 is somebody I'm circling.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a very popular play across the board. Of course, this is a UFC Vegas number 6 DFS strategy show, and we are sponsored by SuperDraft. The future of daily fantasy sports has arrived. Experience SuperDraft's exclusive game mode multiplier. Say goodbye to salary restrictions and a load of lineup freedom. Use your fantasy sports knowledge to draft any player you want and build your very own dream team. Countless lineup possibilities let you experience daily fantasy sports the way you want. SuperDraft offers contests for NBA, MLB, PGA, NASCAR, and MMA, so you can enjoy the best of DFS all year round. Sign up for SuperDraft today using the promo code Awesemo10, and it's $10 free on your first deposit of $10 or more, and $20 total free on your first deposit of $100 or more. Download in the App Store or play at superdraft.io. SuperDraft, no limits, more winning. Of course, Pete, football is right around the corner. Yes, get excited. And we at Awesemo are excited to bring our inaugural season-long fantasy football and best ball draft kit. Using the same tools that have helped make Alex Awesemo Baker the #1 daily fantasy sports player, we have compiled a package that will revolutionize the way you prepare for fantasy sports drafts. For only $29.95, yeah, that's right, $29.95, our draft kit includes everything you need to prep, including rankings, projections, sleeper tools, loads of content from our experts, and the Draft Wingman, which will update your team projections in real time based on who you've already drafted. God, we all need that at some point. We're playing fantasy football. And as an added bonus, new FFPC members get a $35 credit when they sign up for an Awesemo Draft Kit, which is basically makes it free. Don't miss this one. Dominate your fantasy and best ball leagues today. Yeah, man, we're just about a month away. By the way, this weekend was supposed to be the Hall of Fame game.
That's crazy. I'm still not confident it's going to happen. I know it's a little pessimistic, but I don't know. I think it's going to be tough. Well, we'll have to see.
We will definitely see what happens there. Three more fights to break down here. Gavin Tucker, Justin James. Justin James, of course, dynamic UFC debut, knocking out Frank Camacho. He got hit as well in that fight? You know, he had a nice little cut there on the top. And I talked to James about 2 weeks ago. One of the most interesting things he said to me, he goes, "I'm obsessed with Gavin Tucker right now." He goes, "It's all I think of. It's all I think of is Gavin Tucker." Now he said, Gavin's fast. He's quick. He goes, "I know what I'm expecting." While Justin does have that wrestling background, when you talk to him, he's got it in his back pocket. I guess that's about the best way to put it. It's not how he wants to go out there and he wants to be an entertainer and he wants to use his hands, but he more utilizes wrestling more as a defensive aspect more than anything else.
Yeah, so this fight's very interesting, and I think this is another fight I will look to target. Plenty of shares of both sides, but if we're breaking this down, Justin James definitely is the power side of the fight. Throws big looping shots and has some great technique as well, but has that crazy finishing ability. What he did to Frank Camacho, I did not expect. Comes in with an 81% finish rate. Going up against Gavin Tucker, who has an 82% finish rate. Gavin's going to be looking to be the matador right here, whereas James is going to be the bull. And you have to think of Tucker using that great footwork that he basically did against Sam Cecilia, pop shotting him, moving around, and basically frustrating Justin James. Now, if James can get a hold of Tucker and get back to the takedown well, I think that you could see, Justin James basically replicating what happened to Gavin Tucker in the Rick Glenn fight, where Rick Glenn took him down 4 times and landed 142 strikes. Oh, man, one of the most brutal fights you'll see, and actually should have been stopped several times, in my opinion. So Gavin Tucker, he's tough. He really is, and was able to take a ton of damage and keep going on. I guess he kind of was moving. But, if Gavin Tucker can go back to how he looked against Sam Cecilia, I think that, he could get a decision win. I don't see him being able to finish James on the feet. I think it'd have to come the submission route. But James is a guy at 7,800 for me. He just can hit you one time and really change the course of the fight. So I think James is going to touch him at some time here. So I'm slightly leaning James. I have plenty of shares of him. And say it's a close round, Jason, let's solidify that round. Let's take him down.
Mm-hmm.
And, Rick Glenn was able to do that against Gavin Tucker, even though Gavin Tucker does have some pretty awesome, submission ability. But maybe Gavin's going to look to shoot on James here. Maybe that's the thing we're not talking about.
I like James's value on SuperDraft and FanDuel, though. 1.4 times on SuperDraft, $13 on FanDuel. I think there's some great value there.
Yeah, I love James. I like him here in this spot. I mean, for a 7K fighter, he just basically fought Frank Camacho weight class up, and Frank Camacho was basically a 70-pounder. So I think this is a nice spot if he can touch Gavin Tucker. If he can touch him. That's the thing, is can he actually hit him? Because he throws heat, but can he hit him?
Yeah. 2 more fights left. Yusuf Zalal versus Peter Barrett. We both know Peter Barrett really well. I know Yusuf Zalal very well. Let me just frame it like this. Peter Barrett, how does he pull off the upset?
Man, I think he'll have to pressure Zalal against the cage. Work out of the Muay Thai plum and, clinch fighting. Because if he's trying to go strike for strike against Zalal's going to be way too quick and has incredible footwork. Now, the thing that makes this fight interesting is that Peter Barrett is a southpaw. So whenever you're fighting a southpaw, sometimes that throws fighters off. And, the general tactics that you normally would use, you have to adjust. And it has to be more right-handed heavy, right hands, right kicks. And you also have to make sure that your lead foot is always on the outside of your opponent's lead foot so that you're lining up that rear shot. Because if not, you're a sitting duck for that straight left hand or that left kick. So for me at 9,300, I think Zalal is a great play. I think that he moves too well for Barrett. Barrett's very tough, and I will be rooting for Barrett. But I think you could see an accumulation of a ton of strikes here. If you look at Zalal's history for DraftKings, averaging 73 DraftKings points, hasn't really, dominated as far as DFS. But just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean that it can't happen. So I'll have some shares as Zalal. I probably won't touch Barrett at 6,900.
And of course, you have to note the fact that this was supposed to be Pierre Barrett versus Steve Garcia. Steve Garcia pulled out of this fight.
Yeah, that would have been a better fight. That would have been a better fight for Peter Barrett.
2 weeks ago, I want to say ish. Yusuf has been in Vegas since last weekend. He was there. He cornered Jonathan Martinez and Chris Gutierrez, a part of that Factory X team. So he's been there for a while. And I talked to Yusuf last, Wednesday of last week. And, I thought one of the more interesting things that he said to me is that, he's always, his thought was he was going to go down 35. Go down 35. But he's now, him and the team there at Factory X and his nutrition team, he's going to stay at 45.
I like it for him. I think that for 45, he's probably going to be faster and moves better than most of the guys there at that weight division. He's not going to have to kill himself to make it either. Comes in with a 78% finish rate. Peter Barrett comes in at 82% finish rate. But don't be surprised if Yusuf Zalal goes to the ground game here and tries to take Peter Barrett down, averages 3 takedowns a fight, and try to work towards a submission because Peter Barrett has been submitted in the past.
Opening fight of the night, we got Erwin Rivera, second time here in the UFC. We saw him taking that short nose fight against Jacasey back at the card there in Jacksonville. He's a big favorite in this one, taking on Ali.
Oof. It's crazy that he's 8,900 right now when he was a last-minute replacement against Giga Chikadze. I don't feel comfortable with his salary. Now, that's not saying that he can't go out there and get a W because the guy took a ton of shots on the Giga Chikadze fight and actually kept moving forward and looked pretty good in some spots. Throws dynamic strikes, Superman punches, high kicks, jumping knees. So, the talent is there, and he trains with a good camp now down at Sanford MMA with Coach Henry Hooft and all the guys down there. But Al Casey here at 7,300, somebody that I'm kind of looking towards because if I look at Rivera's record and I look into fight tape, if he doesn't keep it on the feet, he ends up getting out-grappled for the most part, like getting taken down a lot. And that's where Al Casey shines. And Al Casey looks to clinch up and work a body lock takedown, step behind trip. So 7,300, this first fight of the night is not one of my favorites, but I'll have some Al Casey because of what I've seen. He's been training with 10th Planet as well out in Vegas. Just the finish rate for both of these gentlemen, 67% for Rivera and 63% for Al Casey. It's not really there, but the value of a grappler in the low 7K range is always appealing. So I don't know. Are you underweight on this fight, or are you kind of right where I'm at?
Oh, totally underweight.
Yeah.
It's the first fight of the night. Come on. You know the answer.
You're not
the answer.
You're not making an exception this week. So, Rivera's not a bad play. Rivera throws.
Okay. I'll put it this way.
Yeah.
You have to roster one. Who do you roster? Erwin Rivera or Yana Kunitskaya?
I'm going Kunitskaya.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I agree with you. I don't think I'll have many shares of either one of them. One of the questions we got here from Robert in the chat, he says, the fighters who are making their UFC debut, which is the best on DraftKings? So,
Buckley.
You got Munoz, Buckley, Barrett, and Ali.
Yeah. So, for me...
all underdogs.
Yeah, so slim pickings here. But if I were to look at guys making their UFC debut, who has a good chance? Women's MMA, arm bars are always possible. So Stoliarenko, I think, is a live dog against Kunitskaya. I would say no on Buckley for me. I think Munoz has a shot, honestly. So he's another guy based on takedown potential. Barrett and Buckley are two of the O&Os that I'm kind of crossing off. Al Casey, decent.
Of course, I know everyone always wants to hear our picks. I'll let you go first.
Oh, gosh. So these are the pre-weigh-in picks because there are a lot of fights that I really want to see how they look on the scale. But I'm going to go Derek Lewis, Weidman, Stewart, even though I was talking about Patello's value. I still think Stewart can do it. Kuniskaya, Dariush, Means, Holland, Haqparast, Sanchez, James, Zalal, Alcasi. Man, I do not feel good with all those.
Hold on. Go through these picks. I think we're 100% both ways.
Get out of here, really?
So I literally put check marks, like names before you started going. I put check marks on who my picks were.
Okay.
So I go Derek Lewis. You had Lewis, right?
Yeah.
Weidman. Stewart.
Yeah.
Kuniskayev. Dariush.
Yep.
Means.
Yep.
Holland.
Yep.
Naparas.
Yep.
Sanchez.
Yeah.
James. Zalal. Rivera.
No, I went Alcasi on the last one.
Yeah. The only thing I don't like about I would say is you always know you got to have about 2 underdogs in an optimal lineup.
Yeah, it's just about finding the correct fights. And just because you're picking a fight, right, doesn't mean that I won't have exposure to the guys I'm picking against. So, like, let's say the Weidman Akhmadov. Even though I'm saying Weidman I think is going to win, I'm still going to have exposure to Akhmadov. Just because of Weidman's history.
Like, look, I like on the SuperDraft side of things, these are fighters who I think have value on SuperDraft. Olynyk at 1.45 times. Patello 1.45 times.
Yep.
Means 1.35 times. Sanchez at 1.4, even though I'm worried about he gasses out, doesn't, gets the works away decision. And Justin James at 1.4 times. That's on SuperDraft. Over on FanDuel, Patello at $14. Hot Sauce Ultimate, I think you got to look at him at $14. And James at 13.
Yeah, I think James at 13 is nice. Patello at 14 is nice. I highly recommend to anybody listening and watching our show right now, go over to Awesemo, click on, sign up, work on towards getting the Fantasy Cruncher, because if you guys can get the Fantasy Cruncher as a part of our projections and everything, you can go in there and manually basically manipulate the exposure. So, like, say I want to sprinkle exposure here and there, and I'll play with the percentages, 20% for this fighter, 40% for other fighters, and you'll be surprised at the lineups that are be able to that you can generate by doing so. So I highly recommend it. That's what I like to do, and I'm sure that you like that tool as well.
Every sport I use Fantasy Cruncher, and especially like in MMA, one of the ways I use Fantasy Cruncher is I say, I want these 2 or 3 fighters in my lineup. I will do a lock on those fighters and see what it spits out.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing that I like to do is just basically cross fighters off. So, like, I will uncheck fighters that I have virtually no interest in. And then, like, when I'm saying that I'm targeting fights, guys, I will actually increase my exposure for those fights just so that I can get, hopefully, the optimal lineup.
Yeah, I mean, and I think what Fantasy Cruncher is also a great tool of is, like, can you squeeze in a Haqparast, a Dariush, and a Lewis? How do you put a roster together with those 3 fighters?
Yeah, you plug them in and you see what it spits out and see what you can do. And then you're like, man, I really, as much as I like those guys, the fighters that they're giving me is for the low 7K options are pretty ugly. So I guess I'm not going to go that strategy. So it's definitely helpful. I highly recommend it. Please go over to Awesemo and check it out.
Yeah, awesemo.com/join to check out all the options that we have over there. Of course, we'll be back on Saturday for Live Before Lock. We'll be on at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And, of course, Always follow us on Twitter. I'm at Jason_Floyd. He is at Pete the Heat MMA. Coming up, we got a busy day over Awesemo.com coming on Friday. You'll see I'll be a part of 2 shows. Actually, got 1 show coming up after here, the Early Bird podcast. I'll be previewing Friday's MLB slate. Also got I'll be a part of the MLB strategy show and also the MLB live before lock. And then I'm telling you, people got to be following Pete on Twitter. He throws some little NBA nuggets out there.
Yeah, that's right, man. I'm not just the MMA guy, and people are starting to figure out you're not just the MMA guy either. So, but definitely check out the content, and thanks for joining us. And we'll be back on Saturday, guys. So have those questions ready.
Yeah, we love the Live Before Lock show. Take your questions, of course. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up as well. Also, if you ever cannot watch us live, it is available via podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the places you get your podcasts. So that is the UFC Vegas #6 DFS strategy show, and we will be back on Saturday for Live Before Lock.